taking the time out. So thank you very much for joining the Nigerian Tech Ignited. This is a webinar that is it's the first of a number of webinars that are really focused around career development, personal development, as well as broader context of community development as well. So I want to appreciate the time that you've taken out. Today we have a fantastic guest. He is a seasoned professional. I will be introducing him in a second, I'm looking forward to a session where we really talk about careers, software development careers, and how we position Nigeria as a leading software hub, some of the opportunities that you can explore as well. So I look forward to having our guest definitely join us. Now, I would love for this to be as interactive as possible. So I want to encourage everyone, please note down your questions, use the chat functionality to put in any questions that you might have, because we do the guests will be taking those, will be answering those questions, but even much more, we want to know that you are learning something from this. So if there's anything that's been said that stands out for you, feel free to pop it in the chat. Just as a reminder to everyone else that is watching, this is also going to be recorded, so we'll be able to watch the playback later on as well. Okay, so without further ado, I will introduce our guest speaker for today. Now, the way the format for today is our guest speaker will go through his slides, give us some background context around software development opportunities and jobs that are available. And also, we will then go into a Q&A session where we start to delve deep into certain statistics around this industry as well. For those who know the industry well, you would remember the 2000 tech boom and the bust as well that came with that. So I have some interesting questions around what the future looks like, especially with artificial intelligence. And for the much older people that are watching and listening, you might be asking questions around what are the opportunities for my children or my cousin or family member or friends who have explored this area as well. Some of you might be thinking of moving career and shifting career, and you just don't know where to start. So I would make that Q&A session really interactive to delve deep into some of the questions and concerns that people have around this space. So I would like to introduce our speaker for today. Mr. Julius Pokbola is the visionary CEO of Jadara Innovations Limited. He brings together over 25 years of expertise in software engineering and system architecture, which means that, he is one of the best people to talk about this. Now, a bit of a background about myself, and I apologize, I didn't introduce myself earlier on. If you're just meeting me for the first time, my name is Sean David Onomasi, and I've worked in the IT space before, and recently I just moved careers from IT, and it might go against what Mr. Julius is going to talk about, but I do have some insights around this space as well. So just reading through this profile, be reassured he's one of the best people to talk about the subject matter. Now, under his guidance, Jadara Innovations excels in delivering innovative software solutions across various industries. Mr. Pokbola holds a bachelor's degree in electronics engineering from Brunel University and advanced his studies in software and electronics engineering at Concordia University, where he focused on video and image processing. His career highlights includes role at Sherman Treaters, Future Electronics, and Diwali Lighting, where he specialized in product development and system design. Now, before Mr. Popola founded Jadara, he was the CTO of We Afrique and a senior architect at Slalom. His technical prowess spans the technical element of Java, Python, C++, cloud computing, and database management. And as CEO of Jajara, he is dedicated to technological innovation, client success, and global recognition. And it gives me great pleasure to bring on stage Julius Bukbola, the CEO of Jadara Innovations Limited. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Shem. It's really
Good.
happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. I heard you speak once a couple of weeks ago in one of our offline events where the we were talking about energy and energy development in Nigeria. You spoke really well around the role of technology and what technology can do in the energy space. You mentioned some really fantastic things around automation, process improvement, even things like CCTV and managing your business as a whole. So I'm really pleased to have you here, where we really delve deep into exploring the lucrative careers in this space. So without further ado, let me leave you to do your thing, Mr. Popola, and once you're ready, we'll go into the Q&A.
Thank you very much, Shem. And I would like to take the opportunity to say thank you to the Nigerian Technology Ignite Corporation for inviting me once again to speak on a subject I'm very passionate about. I'd like to really thank Prince Afolabi Andu for all that he has been doing behind the scenes to get us moving. And I'm really happy to be a supporter, and I'm encouraged by all that is happening in this space. So I'm very happy to be here, and I'm also very happy to speak about a career that I've devoted most of my life, most of my professional life into. So to talk about exploring a career in software development, I think when most people hear software development, the first thing that comes to the mind of most people is the people that sit on their computer and they're writing code. And that's actually, it's a very important element. But to be honest, if that's all that it is, then software development would not be a thing. And so what I'm hoping to do today is to kind of walk us through like the process whereby software is developed. And as I'm walking us through that process, we'll be going through several key positions that are involved in the area of software development. And in so doing, I'm hoping that I will be able to open our viewpoint to the fact that there's so many different aspects that is required in order to produce software. Now, the other thing that is in the back of my mind as I'm doing this is I'm hoping to encourage people to get into this space. Now, why is this important? It's very critical because when you really look at any field today, any field, law, marketing, advertisement, retail, medical, any field, they are all powered today by software. And guess what? It's going to get even more. If you have bought a car a car that was manufactured in the last 3 to 5 years, I'm sure you can testify to all that has been integrated into the automotive industry. And we are definitely moving towards self-driving cars, and that's all powered by software. And so what you find out is that this area, it's an area where there's so much demand right now, and there's not enough people. And it's actually got to the point where a lot of companies are actually going out there to recruit people and train them because that's how much shortage there is. The other thing there is to also look at this from the perspective of how to impact the economy of Nigeria. Because you see, software is not something that one of the beauty part of software, especially what has happened recently with COVID, it has opened our attention to the fact that software uh, can be you don't have to be in the same place. The team that I currently work with are distributed over the world. I only recently met some of the members of my team. We worked for 6 months and have not met them physically because not only are they not located regionally in the same country, we are distributed all over the world. And that is another thing that software brings into play. So I just want to just lay that foundation before we go into this career, just to try and prepare our mind to the reason why we have to pay attention to this space. We really have to pay attention to this space because I feel like if there's one thing that I'm noticing is that I'm not seeing a lot of people that look like me, that come from the same background as me, participating in this space. And that's why we're giving this talk today. So let's start with when software process begins. You might be surprised that actually the first person that is involved in software is actually not the tech guy. It's not the guy that's on the computer programming. Most of companies will start with a product manager. It will start with a product manager. And this product manager, yeah, is someone whose focus is thinking about the vision, is looking at the business value, is looking at something that we can do as a company to become more productive, to become more to increase the income, to increase our user base. And most of the time, you find that people like this can actually be people that did business development. Business management was their degree. It could even be people that did marketing. So most of the people that take this space are not people that necessarily did a technical course. And what do they need? They just need to have the ability to have a user-centric way of thinking. To think about what can I do that will make more people want to use my product. So that's the first thing. And you find that most of these people, the key area they need is strategic vision. How can we increase our value as a company? You might be surprised, like some of the devices or some of the applications that you are interacting with. For example, let's look at WhatsApp. WhatsApp, as my family has corrected me many times, it's something that we all use. Yeah. But you'll be surprised that some people, their job is they're looking at it and they're thinking, how can we make the user journey more easy? And you notice that, I don't know if you ever noticed that they've limited how you can send messages, that you can only send messages to 5 people if you are trying to forward a message. But you know that even though you can do that, they realized that it was affecting their user base. So guess what they did? They introduced a broadcast feature where you can actually go and do a broadcast. And thereby you can select as many people as you want and send the message to them at one time. Now, do you think that most of the time this was done by a technical person? Not necessarily. It would have been done by a product manager whose focus is on that. And a lot of times they make those decisions by data. There's a lot of data analysis to say, okay, like if we introduce this product, how many people were onboarded? How many people used our service? And thereby they begin to find out what are the things they need to do to make that product more viable, more economically viable for the company to become more profitable. But more importantly, most of these skill sets require people that have good communication skills because they have to be able to not only communicate their idea, but they have to communicate the idea to stakeholders and also to the technical team, to the developers. So you find out that in most cases, what we do as software developers, we do what we're told. Somebody comes and said, we think we should do this. And guess what? We do that. I realized that in the profile that I sent, I didn't include one of the companies that I work for. It's actually the company that I spent the most time of my career in. And that is Sky. I'm sure you must have heard of Sky TV or Sky Sports. So I used to work for the company called Sky. And I remember working at Sky, what happened is that some of the people that occupy this position, they are the ones that will have done all the analysis, created a business case for why we need to do this development. And once they've got that, they get money get assigned to it, and that's when we developers get involved. If you have recently bought the new TV that Sky now does, where you have a Sky TV that no longer requires a dish, and you go to the go just your all your content comes through your internet. Can I assure you that the people that provide that vision was product managers, not necessarily software developers. But of course, software developers get involved when they're looking at this variable. What we're trying to do, is it doable? So you find that most of our solutions comes from these people. The other group that I would like to talk about, which is another career path in software development, that requires no technical background, is business analysts. Also, people that take this business analyst role can either be, also like I said earlier, could be people that did business development, marketing, sociology, people that did those courses can actually take on this role. Because you see, this role, what you find is that most of this time, what they do is they gather the requirements. So once the product managers say, this is the product that we want to do, they now go about now breaking down that feature or that desire, that vision that has been set. They begin to break it down into requirements. They gather requirements so that this will enhance the developer's ability to understand the vision. And what you find that most of them, they now become a bridge between the business section of the company and the technical side. Of course, this group also require ability to do data analysis, not data analysis that is extensive, but ways by which they can prove that what we are trying to do actually makes sense. So they have some numbers to back it. And most of the time, this group, their focus is on business process optimization. So they try to guide the steps of moving that information from the business side to the developer side and development side, and manage that whole process so that we are effectively not wasting time, not wasting money, and all this process are being managed very well. So you find that this is another role that we have in the business, in the software development role, that requires no technical training. But what you find is that people like this do require to have ability to cope and understand technical terminologies. They don't need to really understand the deal, but they must be able to understand those technical terminologies in order to be able to do their job appropriately. So it requires people that have interest in things that are technical. Now, this is another group. Now, in this group, of course, technical capability is required. But you find out that in this particular group, which we call data scientists, and it's a new field that actually has just recently been created. This is a new field that just recently been created in the last 10 years. And this group has been created because of the business embracing AI. Yeah, because we now have capabilities of processing huge amount of data to really be able to produce products. Whenever you go on Instagram and you watch a video, and by the time you flip, you see something similar, and you flip, you see something similar, or you're on Netflix and you just finished watching a movie, and as you're finished watching that movie, a series of movies is advertised to you, whereby they're giving you recommendations. Most of the people that are involved in creating those models are data scientists. So you find that in this role, what you find is that these are people that mostly are people that have good ability to work with statistic models. So they might not necessarily be developers. And in most cases, this group do not actually develop products. But what they do is they develop what we call models. So these are people who are mathematically minded, who are able to really look through a lot of data and make sense of it. So thereby, they need good analytic mindset, ability to analyze. There are people who must be curious and inquisitive about the data that they're looking and trying to make sense of it. So, because as you know, I don't know if you've heard, data is the new oil. Data is the new oil because data can allow a company to know where to maximize their income. And so this group are generally involved in that area. So you find that in some cases they need to be able to have some programming skills, but not programming skills for developing software, programming skills in order to be able to utilize some of the tools that are available so that they can really make sense of the data that they are harvesting. So, of course, good communication skills is important, and ability to solve problems is also crucial. So what you find is that in most cases, when the product manager has a vision, the business analyst is now trying to gather the requirements, and sometimes they involve the data scientist to be able to quantify, can we do some of these things, especially when we're looking at AI empowered features. So they would involve the data analyst. And then once all these groups are put together, what you find is that we now need to understand, what would this thing look like? How would users engage with them? This is another group, another area where it's not necessarily the technical programming skills that is required, but another kind of skill set. This is a skill set that people that have creative capability, people that study art, for example, people that study product design can actually be very good for this role. Because you see, in this role, we are looking at the user experience. How would the user interact with this product? And in most cases, a good development cycle, if a company is using the best practice of good development cycle, they will involve people like this at the onset, even before development starts. Why? Because it's cheaper, because it's more sensible, and it helps with the requirement gathering. So they will look at this. This is when we look at user journey. How would the user engage with the product that you're about to develop? Does it really make sense? And in some cases, you can actually do user testing and actually create some mocks and tell people, okay, play with this. Tell me, what do you think? And so you find that people in this group, they must have ability to really look at the way in which user interact with system. And so they must have this empathic way of thinking. Like look at it from a very simplistic way of how would a user who doesn't necessarily understand technical skills can engage with this product. I hope you are following me so far. So this is another field that really can be very, very useful and effective for for product development. Without this role, you find that most product development will not really be able to attain the level that they are expecting. So people like this must have attention to detail, and they must also be ready to collaborate and be adaptive. Another role, which I'm sure this is the one that we're all very familiar with software development. This is the case of software engineering. And this software engineering, these are groups where we are all familiar with. These are people that have analytic thinking. They are very, very critical to problem solving, and they look at technical skills. So technical skills, they must have ability to use programming. But you find that in most cases, having analytical thinking and problem solving are the key criteria, because those are the things that you must have ability to really put on the technical skills. These are things that we can learn. So if you don't have an analytic thinking or problem solving skills, then going to acquire technical skills might not necessarily give you the right output. So for software engineering or software development, what you really want in this kind of skill set is those two major roles. So another role that I would like to talk about is when the software developer has finished doing the implementation, we have another group who doesn't necessarily have to do a lot of programming, but they are essential to making sure that the product that we're developing meets the criteria that we're expecting, which is the quality engineer. This quality engineer, their role is to look at what the software developer has done and test it against the requirements that the business analyst provided, to say what the company said they want to do, is that exactly what we have done? And in so doing, they will be able to look at this and quantify whether we have met the requirements. So most of the time, you find that people like this have analytical skills, attention to detail, and they must also be able to communicate. And now what has happened is that in the current step that we're in right now, we're now looking to automate this process, which is why this role is becoming a bit more technical in the recent wave of where software development is going. Um, Another role, but this one is technical. So I'm calling out the technical ones and the non-technical ones so that you can also see that even within the technical roles, you have different areas where people can be an expert. And this is the one where it's a new role that has also is just recently evolving and is now fully established. We call them DevOps. So these are development in operations. So this role, their focus is they do a lot of technical stuff, but not necessarily in terms of what users do. Their own focus is on infrastructure. Is how do we this this application that the software developers have built, how do we make it available for use? Especially this role has become more and more in demand because of cloud technology. Because cloud technology is what is requiring for these DevOps roles to be a very important role. So this role, there are people that have technical skills. Most of the time, you find a lot of people start with software development and then they find that themselves more comfortable in this role because the level of thinking, problem solving here is slightly different. You're looking at things more from infrastructure perspective rather than from users perspective. So the quantification of what you need is slightly different. And in most cases, what this role end up doing is they end up building and managing what we call the CI/CD pipeline, which is how we continuously integrate what is being developed and deploy them for use. The next role that I would like to talk about is another role, but this role is not technical. Yeah, this role is not technical at all. What you find out, this role is called the Scrum Master role. This role is because you see the way in which we develop software, we tend to utilize agile methodology. So this role, they manage the team. They coach the team to make sure that they are utilizing the agile process effectively. And they tend to be more in the area of solving blockers, problems that teams, that developers and QAs and DevOps might have. So their own job is to make sure that, like everything that the team needs, they are able to access it and acquire it. So what you find at this role, most of the time, what the person needs is a good understanding of agile. And these are the role where having the ability to manage people is very important. Having the ability to be empathetic and to relate with people and to help, mediate when conflict arises is even more important. So you find that most of this role, you find if you're good at people management, you're good at communication, you're good at coaching, you might actually be very good for this role and you do not have any technical background. And you do not, in most cases, need technical background. Then the last role that I would like to talk about here is the role that, does not also require any technical background. This is the role of the project manager. This role is the person that is responsible for managing the entire process of this product development with the mindset of resource management. Yeah, looking at what needs to be done, when does it need to be done by, and do we have everything we need to do it? So their focus is really on organizing the team, organizing the resources, and making sure that we are able to identify where risks are and mitigate against them. And as you can see, most of these roles, good communication skills is something that is required all through. So that is something that we all have to have. So good communication skills is something that is essential. But what you find that in most cases is that even if you are an introvert, there are some roles here that you might need good communication skills, but that good communication skills does not necessarily require people talking to each other. So these are the roles that I would like just to present to us today to show that software development is open for all, and you can actually find where you fit within this role. And what I've realized is that in most cases, most people, they go for the wrong roles, and before they go for the wrong roles, that is why they struggle. Now, to talk about the real deal, because at the end of the day, it's all about money. What is it that you will get? Now, what you find with this role is that with software development, the salaries vary. And what are the things what makes it vary? Number one, your experience. Number two, where you are located. Number three, the company size. Number four, the specific skill. What you find that in most cases is that the skill set that you need, when it's in demand, there's normally a very high price for it. So DevOps, for example, actually is one role now that they pay a lot more for it because there are less people that are doing this role at this point in time. So on that note, I would bring to a conclusion this my first section in this presentation, and just to show you that there's so many different opportunities for everyone, and just to really stress again that there's a place for you, there's a place for everyone in this field, and I'm hoping and I'm praying that God will guide you to the one that is right for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Popola. That was really insightful. It felt like my decade plus experience working in the IT industry was just brought down to 35 minutes in a better way than I could have been taught. I remember going into um, when I started off going into this space, I was very confused. Even though I had started off in uni studying IT and doing some Java and things like that, which I hated, by the way. So no technical skill whatsoever at that time. So I had a lot of apprehension. So just hearing you really help break it down in such a detailed way would have saved me a lot of headache and money at the time. So thank you very much. And I'm hoping that listeners, you've picked up a few possible areas that you can explore. We are going to delve deep into some of these areas and questions around it. I can see Testing Academy in the room. Uncle Demola, fantastic. I mean, when he comes to the testing part of things, I mean, that's his forte. So I'm probably going to bring him in to ask a few questions later on as well. But if you joined after the introduction, let me just do a quick reminder again. So these sessions are really focused around career development, personal development, community development, around the technology space. And this is the first of many that we'll be having. Towards the end of today's session, I will be bringing on Ms. Tokumbo Shonowo, who is the CEO of Sochito, a leading UK-based human resources and training company. And she will just share briefly at the end of today's session what we should be expecting next week as well. So please diarize it. Make sure you put in your diary that we will be meeting again next week, same time, for just roughly about an hour or so, and we'll talk about these details. So I'm going to go to the question. Let me remind everyone in the room, please raise your hand if you want to ask a question. But if you feel that you don't want to ask a question, or you're in a place where you can't because of background noise or something, just pop it in the chat and I will read it out as well. So starting off, Mr. Bookwaller, let me start off with the question, which is around my own personal experience. And it was, how do you overcome the sort of the negative mindset or the limiting beliefs that tends to happen when you're trying to go into this new space? Because when like you said in your introduction, when you think of this industry, you think about geeks and nerds just crunching away on a computer and you think, nah, this is not for me. This is for those, pardon me to use my street language, efiko. Those are the guys who know stuff. I'm not that smart. So I can't do that. And I know that you've touched on different areas that people can still explore regardless. But how do you overcome that initial fear and inertia of going into this space?
One thing I would like to bring out is number one, the first thing that one needs to do is you need to identify who you are. Because you see, once you know who you are, nobody can change that. That's who you are. So if you know, and that's why I've kind of broken down some of these skills set in the context of how I've broken it down. Which one do you see yourself that fits you? So if you see the one that fits you, and you know this is who I am, no one can change that, and no one can take that away from you. Then the next thing I would say is you now need to get a mentor. I think what normally happens with most people is that we want to go through this alone. And in most cases, when you go into it, you see you need to understand the fundamentals. And if you don't understand the fundamentals, it's very difficult to build on it. Even the Bible says, if the foundation be faulty, what can the righteous do? And so what tends to happen is that if you have a mentor who has been through this journey, they can then guide you on where to start. What are the fundamental things you must understand? Because once you understand those fundamental steps, which is where training is very important, yeah, you get that training, you understand the fundamentals, then you now need to build on top of your experience. So, of course, in building on top of your experience, when you start, it might look daunting. So, what you tend to do is you might want to start with something small, like maybe working with a group of people in a startup where everybody knows you are learning. And then from there, you gain some skills, you gain some understanding, and then you then take it to the next step of going out there and exploring what is there. But what is most important than anything else is self-belief. There's something that Yoruba people say, which has always helped me in this field. It says, whatever does not speak cannot be smarter than you. A computer does not speak. So because it doesn't speak, it cannot be smarter than you. So if there's anything that is wrong in what you are doing, all you need to do is take the time and have the interest and the self-belief to find out the solution. Because that's the next thing. To every problem, there's a solution. So when you're going into this field, you're going there because you should be excited when you see a challenge. You should be excited when you see a problem. You should not be scared. And that's an opportunity for you to learn. And I don't know if that principles, because those are the principles that helped me, that's helped me in this journey. I was, in most cases, when I started, I was the only black person in most, even in the company. My first company, I was the only black person in the entire company. But what do? You start that process, and the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. So take the first step. Now, lastly, everything you need to know is written down. There's nothing, you see, one of the best thing about this area is that you just need to read. If you don't have time to study, don't bother. Because everything you need is written down. You just need to, become more aware. Study these things. There's a lot of video training that will actually take you step by step through most of the process that you're trying to understand. And those things, those training materials, you need to own them as well. So I know I've kind of gone through a few things, but I'm hoping that is helpful. I'm trying to give as much
No.
information as possible.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. That's really helpful. And I think it speaks to most of life, right? That self-belief is so critical. And, knowing yourself and knowing what value that you bring is essential. In my past role as a business analyst, when people come to me and this really intelligent people, and I'm looking at them, I'm like, oh, okay. But I know that my job as a business analyst was to be the bridge between IT and business to make technology make business sense. Simple as. And I just focused on that, right? I didn't focus on the Java, the data scientist, and they came and they, I was like, see, I'm not as smart as you guys in that area, but in my area, I know my stuff. So thank you very much. That's really, really a good place to start. Before I ask the next question, I'm going to let Omotayo Ajibade. Apologies, I don't know if it's a miss or a miss, but please go ahead with your question. Please unmute yourself just in case. Okay, so maybe you'll come back. You still have your hand raised. Your hand's raised, Omotayo Ajibade. Let us know if you have that question and you would like to ask a question. All right. Next question, Mr. Popola. So with artificial intelligence, being that buzzword right now, um, what should, what's the right way of thinking of the impact of artificial intelligence in, oh, okay. Omotayo Ajibade, are you,
Hello, hello.
yes,
Okay.
it,
Yeah,
it,
let me just summarize what I wanted to say. We need we need a physical place where training will be held, especially in Ibadan here. I need a place.
okay,
All
okay.
right.
Thank you, sir. I'm sure that there's. Do you mind muting yourself if you finished, please?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you very much. I'm sure that there are people within the Nigerian Business Forum who are already providing these training in physical spaces across Nigeria and across the world that you can connect with. So please just drop a message in the group if you're not part of the group already. I'm sure somebody can reach out to you, but we'll also take that as a note and interest from you. So thank you for that. Okay, someone said Greystone's Technologies. Oh, okay, Prince of Falabi has just mentioned that Greystone Technologies in Ibadan does provide these trainings. So, Mr. Motayo, please connect with Greystone Technologies, and we'll be able to make that possible. All right, back to my question, Mr. Popola. Artificial intelligence, people are talking about it, people think that these robots are going to take your job and the rest of it. And I did see some analysis recently that actually list the type of IT jobs that potentially can get impacted by things like ChatGPT that can do your basic high level coding for you. So you don't really needs the technical work. You can just put it in there. You can even copy and paste certain instructions and prompts from a different website, and this chat GPT will spill out a lot of codes for you, and then you just take that away. Now I know from experience it's not that easy, but the analysis does show that IT jobs will be impacted by artificial intelligence. In 2023, it was a total of about 140. I think it was. I'm just looking at that number now. 108,000 jobs, IT jobs, that were impacted as at August 30, 2023, and big companies like Amazon, Google, they did big layoffs. We've seen that number change in 2024, so there's not as much layoffs, but the reality is there. So how should people think about artificial intelligence and the impact on these jobs that you've talked about?
Okay. The first thing is we need to understand what the artificial intelligence does and what it is. the chat GPT, when you see what it does, it might give you the wrong impression about what type of how it does what it does. It's powered by what we call LLM, large language models. So what does that mean? It means that all they've done is they have given this service or this system a huge amount of data. And all it has done, it has done what we call, it has built a statistic model on that. And that statistic model is that if it sees a series of words following each other, it can statistically find out what is the probability of the next word that appears. So if you see this is a, he knows that because it is this is a, the next thing that must appear must either be a noun. The probability of it being a noun is very high. And so therefore, that is actually how it makes decisions. So it does not actually have knowledge. All it has is a statistic model. But that statistic model, it presents data in such a way that it looks human. So what you find is that my own belief, based on my understanding of how it works, is that it is a tool, not a replacement. So if you're going to use ChatGPT and you do not understand, let's say I don't understand law, for example, I have no clue on law, and I want to use ChatGPT, I can't. What I will ask it for will not be appropriate because I don't have the law context. But as a software developer, because I know what software is, I can ask it questions. And what it gives me, I can interact with it because I have some knowledge of what I do. So what you find is that in most cases, what you find is that you will still need people who have the knowledge of that domain, but they will now use these tools to aid them. So what it will do is it will reduce their time on Google. The time that we spend searching for stuff in Google is what it will reduce. But you will still need to have a bit of some capability. I know that they're trying to improve it and get it better, but I don't see it as replacing all of us. Now, but what it might do though, is it might reduce the number. So maybe in scenarios where we needed 20 developers to do the work, now we might be able to do the same work with 5. Because a lot of the times that they will, because as a software developer, 60% of my time is spent researching, going on Google, finding out different examples, reading different documentation before I'm actually able to implement what I need to implement. Now, that 60% of my time is now reduced to 20% of my time because now ChatGPT can help me to get to what I need much quicker. Yeah. And that is why you find out that in that scenario, I can do a lot more with my time, which is what it does. It reduces my ability, but it does not replace. At this point in time, with that technology, because that technology has a limited capability, and it is also open to what we call hallucination, because it's purely doing statistics. It can statistically bring a solution to you. Actually, this was something I experienced when I was asking it for a program, and it gave me a code, but it typed the name of the library wrong. And I was looking everywhere for the library. And I was like, this library, it's until I looked at and I did another Google search and I realized that it had misspelled the library's name. So you see that it can't, but I know that a lot of people are talking about, oh, you can just give it and it will write the code. It will write the code, but somebody that understands code will still need to look at that code to understand how it works. So in a way, I would say get acquainted with it, You must know how to use ChatGPT because why? If it's taking me 20% of is reduced my workload of 60% of my time on Google to 20%, that means I'm able to do a lot more quickly. And
Mm.
actually, at work right now, we don't even hide it. When we're discussing, we bring ChatGPT in and we start asking it, and we're dialoguing with ourselves and ChatGPT in addition to what we're doing. So that is how I see it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kukwala. I believe someone in the chat put it this way, which I quite like as well. It's a tool, but has no ethical response. I was in a session last week where we ended up talking for about an hour around, artificial intelligence and in the psychology space, and because it's apparently that's the area where it's going to be impacted first above every other thing. But our resolution in that conversation was what has just been typed, that it's a tool. The ethical response or the ethical side of things are quite limited. I also like the openness and the reality that you've expressed, that the jobs might reduce, and the figures does actually show in 2022 there were about 400,000 IT jobs. In 2023 that went down to about 180,000 IT jobs in the market at that time. We've seen a steady climb, and that's probably because of the hype of artificial intelligence at that time. But now that number is going back up. Now we have well over 200,000 IT jobs actively on a month-to-month basis across the world that are available. So we're seeing that, and I'm with you, and I agree with you that it is a tool. It will have its limitation. The strength will probably be around the brainstorming element, so that you can brainstorm ideas, reduce research time, but you still need somebody that can interpret that. So thank you very much.
Can I,
Okay,
can
sure.
I say something about the job, the reduction in the job
Hmm.
market? Because you have to understand the reduction in job market is also as an impact of the, because what happened was with COVID, as you are seeing currently with a lot of the economies of the world. So the economy is going through the global economy is going through some huge turmoil at this point in time. So what we've noticed was that because of that, most of these big companies, what they did is in order to keep themselves profitable, they have reduced their workload. So I will not necessarily tie it to the ChatGPT taking over people's job. It's more of the global economic disruption that is taking place right now. So a lot of companies they down tools. So the demand also for most things has gone down. As inflation is going up, some of the profitability of some of these markets of some of these companies were being impacted, which is why they reduced the job market. So there's so many other factors that I think we need to consider as well
Of course.
with what has happened in the last few years.
Of course, and I'm with you. Tech booms at the time, investor money, interest rates. So I'm with you on that. There was a question in the group, and someone was first of all just pointing out your brilliant work in the past when they were exposed to your training. Um, what I the they also mention about the fees related to these front end, back end training. And there are a number of companies that are out there now providing that training for people. But for most average, at least for some Nigerians that are listening in Nigeria at the moment, the cost of it is quite astronomical. And even for UK-based people as well, I remember that there's some courses that I'm hearing thousands and multiple thousands that I'm like, I just need a job right now. I can't even afford it. So are there affordable alternatives for people that want to go into this front end, back end? How can they, sort of get started?
I would say you know, there's a saying that if you maybe let me probably say this in pidgin. I'm sure pidgin would help. Better soup. If you want to eat better soup, now money killer. So in a way, it is very difficult to say that you want to get this on the cheap. You have to pay something. And I like the fact that Lady Sosito has made something there that, volunteering. It has to cost you something. If it doesn't cost you money, it will cost you time. So the way I would say is if you want to have training and you think that money wise you can't afford it, then one thing that we all have is time. Devote your time. Approach some companies. Say you want to volunteer. I have interest in this. Can I work for free? And thereby you get some training. That I think is one aspect. Then the other aspect is for you to be able to approach companies. Say you're volunteering. There are a lot of where where you can spend the least is getting internet data. Yeah, getting internet data, and actually there's some free training courses online. There's a lot of information that's available online that is free, but it will cost you data. So those are the things I would say you have to pay something. You have to pay something. And the thing there is that you just have to find out which one is it that you can afford at this point in time. Is it time? But you need to also be able to data. Data is the first thing I would say it's going to cost you. The time online. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Popola. We are pressed for time at this point, so I want to say thank you once again. Please do connect with Mr. Popola, and he'll be able to answer any other questions that you have. But also, if you're part of the Nigerian British Business Forum, either the young entrepreneurs or even or the older group, please throw in your questions there, and we'll try and get back to you. At this point, I'm going to bring on the stage this wonderful lady that I mentioned earlier on, Miss Tokumbo Oshinowa. No, wait, let me make sure I get it. Shonowa, not Oshinowa. I always mistake it. I think I still have your number saved as Oshinowa on my phone, so I have to change that. My apologies. Ms. Tokumbo Shonowa is the CEO of Suchito, and she's worked in the human resources space and training companies and individuals across the country for a while. And she's going to be taking next week's session at the same time. Ms. Tokumbo, do you want to just give us an insight into what we should be expecting next week?
Thank you very much, Shil.
Yes.
And thank you very much, Engineer Popola, for a very insightful session. Actually, you nearly covered what I was going to say next week, but yeah, you didn't. So thank you for inviting me on. Like Shil mentioned, this is just one of many webinars that is going to equip and get you ready for that job market. So the next session is going to be on Saturday, the 10th of August. So note that down. And what I will be doing is I'm going to prepare you to navigate the recruitment process. So what we would focus on, and thank you very much, Engineer Popola, is how do you make yourself marketable in terms of what's your first point of contact with any manager or recruiter? You need to have a killer CV. So how do you get your CV in such a place that it stands a competitive edge over others? And Engineer Popola rightly mentioned, you need to know yourself, self-belief, and what you want to do. You need to know the industry, where you want to go, and your skills and experience. Those are the things that we're going to translate into a killer CV. Also, we're going to mention tips on the application process. When you make applications, you need to ensure that you're, appealing to the recruiter and you're saying that you're the best person for the job. And lastly, I would kind of cover a little bit about interviews, because it's one thing for you to know what you want to do. It's another thing for you to have a killer CV, but then you have to have an interview, and you have to present yourself in such a way that the hiring manager or the person who is recruiting you is saying you're showcasing your skills and your experience in such a way that you then land that successful job. So what I would advise you is that you need to stay connected to these webinars. You need to be present. You need to invite people, because the opportunity you're getting here is, you can't get it anywhere else. So I would like to see everyone, even much more than we've seen today, on the 10th of August, 2024. Thank you very much, Shil.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Kumar. I'm looking forward to next week. Our brief chat helped me when I was doing a transition myself recently. So thank you so much for that. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to just lastly say thank you for your time. We are pressed for time now, so I'm just going to round up. Again, if you've not joined the forum, you can reach out to, I put a number responding to Aminat Sulaiman. Please reach out if you're not already part of the forum, but you're most likely already part of the forum to have received the link for this session. So till next week, we look forward to having you, same time, and we would send you the Zoom link as well. Please do have a fantastic weekend. Uncle Demola, I will come back to you and prick your brains. Sorry we didn't have time to bring you on board, but I'm hoping you'll do one of these sessions soon as well. So have a great weekend, everyone, and God bless you. Thank you very much, Mr. Pokwala, once again.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
All right. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
All right, bye.